Hey, we are live, and no one should watch this content.
You know, people don't realize all the hours of choir practice we have to do just to get that, that ending of your intro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's live, folks. You have live production values here.
Yep.
Has anybody ever told you that the intro to your the way your video starts is always very cinematic?
Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit, actually. Thank Peter and Brainbug.
I don't mind it. It's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, it kind of has a retro feel to it. Demon sharing a pill of, no, it's not psilocybin. No, it's
a demon black pilling a human. What does the world come to?
Oh, yeah, Icarus or Kafai wanted to know if it was psilocybin. I said no, it's a boner drug. Oh, yeah, Icarus or
Killing a human.
carrying a pill. What's happening? It's not psilocybin.
Is somebody somebody have too many tabs open?
Oh, no, somebody does.
Sounds like it.
Oh, yeah, Icarus or Who's running their video in the background? What's happening?
I don't know. Somebody.
I thought I was muted. What the fuck?
Oh no, you weren't muted. You were not muted. Anyway, what's up, guys? I thought I would throw the link out in the chat because I'm probably gonna sit here and look at my rocks under the microscope. I figured out finally, after 2 years, I figured out that I was only getting half magnification from my microscope. I finally figured out how to use it.
Wow.
Yeah, because the other lenses are, huh?
I mean, have you started using that in the last week? Because you had some pretty interesting close-ups of some of your bugs.
Oh my God, you ought to see how close I can get now.
Well, go for it.
Yeah, I should throw that on. I'm thinking about it.
Jay's quite a critic today.
Where is it?
You're right. I can't argue with you, Jay.
I think it took a big shit because of who just showed up. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, it's because he showed up, man. It's you, Jay. You're the problem with my streams and why my viewership, why I don't get any subs ever.
You know, Jay's always the problem starter when it comes to like Smokey or Praise or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talks shit.
What did I miss? Oh, we're live.
How did the proposal go? We know you were over there proposing to your girlfriend on one day.
Now's not the time to be talking about stuff you found on the dark web. What the fuck is wrong with you?
We were trying to not tell you. We were trying to keep it a secret that we were live so that you would say some embarrassing shit. and then your girlfriend would listen to it all and was like, "Oh, he's in fucking trouble now."
She'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about? Why are you sharing our business?"
Yep.
Jay Pasick, what's he doing?
I don't know.
He's just really down on us, I tell you. Oh well.
Ooh. The production value just took a big shit.
Yeah.
What?
Jay is having an angry day. He's having
we all have our days where we're a little bit extra critical of things.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've had days where I want to break someone's neck. Yeah, I understand that.
Well, for like 2 days now, Praise hasn't done anything really, truly ridiculous. And I think
he's having withdrawals.
It puts him in a bad mood.
Let me tell you, Praise.
Nobody talk.
I have never seen someone flip-flop so many times in so little time frame as Praise. It is.
You've been doing that for a long time.
I'm getting whiplash watching his channel.
You know, I kind of feel like this is an insult to mentally challenged people, but has anybody ever asked if like he's genuinely mentally challenged?
I have actually wondered that, to be honest.
He said some dumb things. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some hardcore stupid from a lot of creationists, but this, like, some of the stuff he says takes the cake.
And don't get me wrong, I do like praise, like on a personal level, but sometimes when I listen to him, I just think, wow, like, dude.
Well, there's the killing air molecules versus air in space. So I guess Matt Powell still takes the cake, kind of, you know.
Well, technically, there is air in space.
I mean, hydrogen, yeah.
Well, not even that. Earth's atmosphere exists in space-time.
Yeah, but it's kind of like secluded from.
Yeah, but it exists in space because everything
H2O?
exists in space. So
Not
there's,
H2O.
There's air in space. Yes, there is no other place for air to exist at because everything exists in space-time. But technically, yes, there is air in space.
Are you applying for Danny's job?
No, I didn't know. I don't really want to teach high schoolers.
Angry.
I would, if I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be a professor at a university, and it's probably going to be in another country because I can't deal with dumb, fucking, arrogant, pricky American kids.
You know, I wouldn't think like that. It's an all necessarily American kids that phenomenon occurs with. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's something you encounter a lot, just because it's an element of youth that you deal with.
Yeah, a little bit of knowledge makes you an expert in everything.
There's also kind of just an American thing.
I mean, you're probably right, but I mean, I can't imagine it's too different, like in other.
Well, what I've heard is it's a bit different.
I do feel like Americans, as I am one of them, do feel more conceited just because we were born in the USA, which I know is circular reasoning, but that's the USA for
you. Thank you, Gur. I really couldn't tell you're American. It wasn't obvious.
Let's be honest. That's just a fact. Like, we all know about the perceived arrogance of Americans that's recognized globally. I mean, anybody who doesn't know this is a thing, has never spent time talking with people who aren't from here or traveling to other places that aren't here.
You know, I feel like I wish I had more money to travel because I think I would represent America really well because I don't feel arrogant. You know, I don't talk down to people. I'm just a very humble
a Southern gentleman.
You know what I think it is on a real note? I think the level of education kind of.
What are we looking at?
I think kind of the level of education is inversely proportional to the level of arrogance somebody has.
That's a really fine grained granite at about 140 power or something like that.
Are there cobwebs in that thing?
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And those are so tiny you can't see. You can barely see that pink crystal there.
I can see it very well.
It looks like a little tiny dot. So I mean,
there's a lot of pink going on there.
There's a lot of pink going on, but
it does kind of look like a steak, a raw or rare steak.
It does.
Outside of all the
that looks like raw beef.
All the like white salt accumulating outside of it, sure.
Yeah, it's a little hard to focus when you get this high magnification. You can only see part of it at a time.
It's pretty good. Like, it's a little fuzzy around the edges, but yeah, it's pretty good.
Speed, do you like what's it called, micro photography, or is it macro?
Micro.
Yes, micro. That's
Yeah,
I need to put Himalayan sea salt on the.
Yeah, it does remind me of Himalayan salt.
It does. Looks like there's like moss growing on it, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit growing, and that was from like inside the rock. You know, I cracked it with a hammer. Let me see if I can do my fingernail.
That's really cool, though.
Oh wow.
To me, the smaller, like the closer we can get to the smallest of things, is cooler to me than space, at least in some regards.
I would agree, but when I think of small in that regard, I'm thinking of smaller than most people have the capability of intuiting.
No, yeah, I think. But
when we talk about like rocks, I'm gonna be honest. I don't give a shit about rocks.
No, I get that. I'll put it to you this way.
It's not here, isn't it?
Uh-oh, Leo just called out all you geologists, and you're all fucking wasting your goddamn.
I didn't say that they were wasting their time.
Oh,
I
yes,
just
you
said I
You
didn't.
implied
I
it.
just said I
You
think
implied
rocks
it.
are boring.
No,
I
you
didn't.
implied it.
What I said was I do not find
Yeah, you
rocks
did. Take
in
it back.
any
Take it back.
Jay, I know you
Geology is a
said
very, very rich field.
Jay, I know you said the production values were low for this stream, but your mic says it all.
Jay, could you stop deep throating your mic, please? I would really appreciate it. I mean,
Oh, well, I had to bring in the low production value. Come on now.
Yeah,
What
somebody
the
had
fuck
to
is wrong with your mic, man?
Your
What kind of
mic
person would
is
Jay be?
tiny.
shit, man.
What kind of
How
person would
about-
Jay be to bitch about the production value without actually
Right.
bringing it down?
Exactly.
It's my mic
Exactly. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Sure. The quality still sucks, but we can hear you.
Oh, Jesus Christ, girl. That's all I fucking aim for is to please you. Jesus fucking Christ.
It's
I'll
a
be right
noble goal.
back. I don't think my earbuds have established the proper connection. Let me leave so I can come back in and increase the production value with a proper
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
voice.
Connection
Please.
lost. Please wait. Attempting to reestablish.
Oh, what
I
are we
doubt there's
looking at
anybody
now?
in here that gets the joke.
Is my mic good, or is it like?
It
Yeah,
sounds
your
like
mic
you're,
is
yeah, it
great.
sounds like you're yelling into like an old ham radio from across the other side of a cave, but we can still hear you.
Really? That bad?
Yes.
No, it's really good. Beautiful.
Leo's getting the jokes tonight.
Radio.
Hey, what are we looking at though? For real?
Where before stepped up to the bat, he's got his signature maple bat in his hand.
That's a moth that's about a quarter of an inch.
And there goes a swing and a miss. Oh, let's see if he can hold up.
Okay.
And there it is! And it's gone! It's out of the park!
Is that what? Okay, what was that speed?
We
It's
need
a
to have
moth.
like a Mexican. We need to have like a Mexican announcer like do announcing for golf, just fucking or commentary on golf, just fucking once.
It's a bug.
Would that really be interesting? I don't know.
It would be interesting. You're kind of far
Honestly,
away from your mic.
I think like an Aussie narrating golf in a very excited way would be really fucking cool. Or a
What?
German very angrily narrating golf. Like these would be funny.
Oh, he got the birdie.
I feel like a German reciting, like announcing golf, like might accidentally, like bring up World War II. Like
Nine,
I think, I think an
Like,
Australian would just be hilarious. Oh, looky here, this dumb fucking cunt can't even knock the ball onto the green. What a fucking mook. I'm sorry.
hey, fucking bloke, can't even hit the fucking ball. Yeah, fuck.
Speed. On a serious note, like if you took snapshots of these pictures that you have,
Yeah.
and put them on Instagram with a bunch of hashtags, I think you'd get a good following. In all honesty,
Really? Cool.
Maybe that's just because I like this sort of thing. I like zooming in as close as we can freaking
Oh
get.
yeah.
If I ever
Yeah.
get the money, I'm gonna start doing astrophotography.
Oh,
I
that'd
just
be cool
don't
too,
have
yeah.
I just don't have $5,000 to dump on a really good camera and telescope right now.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that just mean getting like a really high quality telescope?
Wait, Jay's
Yeah.
back. Let's let him talk. See if we
But
brought up the
high quality
production
telescopes
values.
are
I had to interrupt him for
several
that.
$1,000s.
It
yeah,
still
that's
sucks.
the bitchy part about it, isn't it?
Like a good Celestron, yeah, you're gonna be spending like a good one at minimum. You're gonna be spending $3,500. Orion makes pretty good telescopes, but they'd be my second choice to Celestron.
Yeah, the 3,500 for most people is a pretty decent investment.
Well, I mean, if you're doing astrophotography like big time and like maybe like post on social media and like maybe collect some revenue off of it, sure. But if somebody just wants to do it more as a hobby rather than like they're an astro, like an actual astrophotographer, then yeah, that's I doubt
I
it.
invested.
I'd say 3,500 is a little more than a hobby, but yeah.
I invested more than
surprised.
that into my home theater.
Immutable. Have you ever talked to a model railroader?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
$3,500 is a lot. Try a room that's about as big as a garage that's got $55,000 in it, all in an HO scale model railroad.
Okay,
$55,000.
$55,000. Wait, you said 55,000.
$65,000.
Okay, Like with a room, I could kind of I could kind of justify the cost.
Buckaroo.
Well, I'm talking like something like the size of a garage. So imagine like something like a 20 by 20 or a 25 by 25. You know, your typical garage.
Yeah.
$55,000. I mean, it was a nice layout. It wasn't huge, but you know, that's a good size. But believe me, that's not the biggest they get. By no means. But yeah, $55,000. He said most of that money, honestly, was probably wrapped up in like locomotives and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like setup would probably cost you like maybe, I don't know, 10, 12.
Yeah, the locomotives, and then a lot of the track and the electrical wiring systems and the DCC decoders for the everything. He said that's where most of the money was spent.
Yeah, I can imagine getting it set up and ready, you know, just operational. Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
This conversation
that at least has
is so
that.
thrilling, so exhilarating.
At least that is like practical use. Not to say like astronomy and stuff like that doesn't. It's kind of
Oh my!
I don't know. Like the fun stuff with me is kind of the chemistry that occurs, like in outer space. Like the fact that amino acids and nucleotides can form in comets and meteorites. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it is.
Look at those little fucking trees growing on this piece. This is a little tiny seed from a grass. And look at these little tiny trees that are on it. I don't know if that might be a fungus, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, those are definitely not trees.
For seed ticks. Get them out of there.
Definitely not.
Hey, Leo,
Called seed lice.
Leo, I kind of know they're not trees, Leo.
Why did you call them trees? Fucking
Leo.
weirdo.
Kind of like little
Yeah.
bitty trees.
Oh, they're
Look
like,
at these little trees. Crikey,
Okay,
look at
that's-
these little trees.
It's,
I can't figure out why these little trees just climbed up my arm. Oh my
guys,
God.
we got Speed Ross over here. Guys, look at these happy little trees.
Yeah, there we go.
Happy little accidents.
No, that was like, doesn't it look like an alien landscape?
Exactly what you say.
Oh, what?
Happy little accidents.
Sorry.
Looks like an alien
Somebody's
landscape.
mic.
It does, actually.
Somebody's mic has some terrible quality, and I don't know.
Oh, that's
whose
fucking
it
Jay.
is.
That's
Hey.
fucking Jay.
I had a feeling. I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, we don't want to
Jesus
call them all
Christ,
by
I just
name.
I can't
Sure,
make
somebody
anybody
line
happy
doesn't.
these days.
Are
The
you,
fuck
Jay,
is
you
wrong
make
with
me
you?
happy.
are you talking through like steel cans? Because that's kind of the way it like.
It's the first I've had this issue with these buds.
Are
To
you
be honest, Jay is the one that literally sounds like he's coming through an old ham radio.
inside of a beer bottle?
Performance issues. All I can say. 1 out of 4.
Well, there's definitely some performance issues. I'm not sure if it's you or the mic.
But I'm pretty sure
Now, is that any better? No.
that's much better. Well, a little bit better, at least at minimum.
Oh, Immutable's
making
on camera
progress.
for once. The guy that
Yeah,
should be
what's
on
up?
camera all the time. I don't know why he's not.
Because I just got this camera today.
Okay,
Because it's
okay.
needed for a course. If
Well,
I'm-
no, I didn't know that you weren't on camera because you didn't have a good one. I thought you just didn't ever turn it
No,
on.
I just got it today, so that's why the PC that I bought didn't come with one. So
Oh, fuck. Do you know what
kind
that
of,
is?
what kind of camera is it?
What is that? Yeah.
it is.
You know what this is? This is a wild rye, and I wonder if that's the shit that they make LSD out of. That fucking black fungus on it.
No, I don't think so.
so.
No, really,
Awesome if it was.
really.
Black, like usually, I think poppy seeds. Those usually
That's heroin.
produce morphine. And those
No,
are-
Yeah, that'd be
no,
heroin.
LSD,
not
LSD,
heroin.
LSD was originally isolated from a fungus on a rye. I believe it was rye.
Yeah, LSD is made by
thought it was a
alkaline
byproduct.
hydrolysis of a fungus.
Okay, it's
I
called
thought it was a
it's called
byproduct of lysergic
it's
acid.
called ergot fungi, and this could be it. Oh my goodness!
LSD's not that fun anyway. Shrooms
I should
are
lick this.
way fucking better.
I should lick this
Oh,
stuff.
shit.
I think
Actually, no. If it really is LSD, all you have to do is touch it because the skin.
Well,
is
it's
porous.
it's ergot. It makes you go kind of crazy.
I would say one is not better than the other. They're just different.
No, shrooms are just better than LSD. They just are. They just are. They're safer. They actually produce naturally. Like you can get LSD, but you have to like do a sort of a chemical process. You don't with shrooms. You just grow them, and then
Yeah,
get them.
but Leo, there are nuances to this. There are nuances.
Of course,
LSD,
I'm kind of
LSD is
talking
very
about them.
is different.
I know
That's
that.
different.
I've taken both.
And it
I
has-
didn't say
Yeah.
that they weren't different. I said
Yeah, but a lot of the
Fish is
LSD,
better.
a lot of the LSD that you get commercially is pretty shitty, actually.
sure, I don't really care.
ergot. So I wonder if there are little black funguses growing out of rye, and
Fungus?
this is a wild rye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
is
w-
the webcam I'm using. If you're curious about what the particular camera is,
How about now?
I put it in the private chat.
Yeah, you're better. It's loud, but you're better. I can edit your mic setting a little bit.
Yeah,
Well, I switched to my laptop.
Okay, you're much better.
Yeah.
Laptop's at least
Yeah, I
Thank you.
Yeah, I can. I'm hearing you guys over the earbuds, but I've switched the mic to my laptop microphone. I think the conflict was because I was connected to my phone, but I think they were trying to connect to my computer at the same time. It's
Yeah,
weird, but
the world thanks you.
When you say earbuds, are you talking about like Apple AirPods or something, like ones without a cord?
they're Samsung's version of Apple
Yeah,
AirPods.
but like
They're
ones without a cord. They don't have a cord.
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
with the Samsung S21s, you don't even have the option to use one with a cord. There's no 3.5 millimeter jack on them.
Yeah, no, it's the same with the Apple AirPods. Like there's you can't plug them in. You can't.
Yep, exactly.
Don't
Did
get
you
the
know
AirPods.
the-
They're just shit. They suck so bad. If you like laugh with them in, the music will pause and they'll chime like they're doing when you put them in your ears. They'll like randomly pause your music. They don't charge worth a shit. Don't get Apple AirPods.
Did you know the
And I actually
revenue
have
that
the
Apple
Pros.
gets from the AirPods is measured in the billions of dollars, not millions, but billions?
Yeah, they're charging
believe it.
almost the Apple AirPods Pro that just released, like the newest version, are $200. I guarantee you it costs Apple maybe $8 to make them.
It was a conspiracy from Apple. They took away the headphone jack, and then they brought out these Bluetooth headphones, and everybody bought them because
Yeah, it was a way
it's
to-
a
it was a
flex
way
to
to
have
have profit.
AirPods.
But nothing's better than the fact that when they did that, you had videos of people showing how to actually drill
Yeah.
the
That's
port
true.
into the side of the phone, and people actually did it. And
Oh, we
ripped
just
their
got
phones.
bombed. Did we just get bombed?
What?
The fuck?
What are you
By what?
Bombed by what?
Oh,
all
Drill
of a
Sergeant
All of a sudden, I
666.
saw
don't
a
know
whole
who that
bunch
is.
of Chinese characters. I was clicking on comments. What the fuck?
That's racist.
That's what you saw.
And then it went away.
Actually,
blame
I've just put them in timeout.
Did you see it? Oh, you
Stuff
put them
like
in
that,
timeout?
You should just
Yeah.
hide those kinds of people instead of putting them in timeout.
Okay,
Yeah, drawing
yeah.
attention to them.
Where the hell is he? We got to get rid of. Well, he comes on. He came on to
They
praise
got
his
timed
stream.
out already. Calm down.
Yeah, but no, he was on
Okay,
praises
I'm
stream. You don't want to time him out. You want to block him. So he was on praises or no, Cell Cordova's stream, and he kept doing it over and over again, and he just completely bombed the chat. So it was it's pretty shitty.
Yeah, it's probably
Whose
like a P
stream?
Mars or fucking somebody
So,
like that.
so,
I was
so
on Cell
here's,
Cordova.
On praise
Well,
I am stream.
let's give
Oh,
no,
lots and
Peter's
lots
in
of
the
attention
house.
speed.
so here's where the coward Gerbania is hanging out.
Mike is really fucked.
Your mic is kinda like,
Me?
your stuff.
What
Yeah,
did,
Peter, you're
what did
right.
you say?
Motherfuckers with people in their mics tonight. What the fuck?
Is that
Somebody's-
the puppet from the Saw
Your
movies?
mic-
Somebody's mic is popping. Yeah.
Peter,
Pop mic.
our mics are at like 80. Yours is like at 120.
Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, is
Yeah,
that
and
better?
and you're distorting on top of it.
Who would
Now
think
Peter
the
has
Dutch
27
would,
Oh, here's
filters on.
distortion.
wait? Who would think the Dutch would ever overdo anything?
Yeah, you wouldn't think. You wouldn't think we did.
Oh my
Peter, your
god,
mic
Peter,
is-
your mic
I thought my mic was bad.
sucks.
Your mic's worse. I think you just need
Yeah.
the worst
Oh my
mic
god,
on the
yeah.
Jay,
It's-
you
it
get
sounded
to
good
move
earlier.
off of that list.
Yep.
Peter.
It's not the gain. Yeah.
All right, Peter, try again.
Jiggle that cord.
He's just got too many filters, and they're
that better?
conflicting with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lick it, and then stick it into the USB port. Lick it.
Okay. So
That makes the
apparently,
connection. It's like
Okay, now
dialectic
turn your
grease.
volume up, Peter. Turn the volume up.
That's
turn the
fine.
volume up.
Yeah,
What do
there
you
you
mean
go.
turn the volume up?
Don't
Whatever.
listen
Okay,
to
say what you're
Germania.
gonna say. I know it was about me.
Is that
but-
better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Oh, that's
Is that better?
No, it's too high.
Now
Let's
it's
do
too
better.
It's just like dielectric grease, dude.
The baby has been thrown out with the bathwater.
You're
Peter,
too fucking high.
It's the same thing she said. Just spit on it and it'll work.
I got
All
a joke.
right,
I got a joke for you guys because AJ mentioned babies. What's worse than a baby in a blender?
Oh my god, here we go.
A baby
Oh,
in
no.
four blenders.
Well, yeah. What's worse than a baby in a blender?
Okay.
Baby.
Trying to
You're not-
clean up the mess with a boner.
No,
a baby in
no,
a blender and you're not hungry?
I give up.
What's worse than a baby in a blender is me pulling it out with tortilla chips.
Oh my god.
As compared to
I don't get it.
potato chips make it worse.
Peter,
What
But-
do you do with tortilla chips?
You dip them in
Gives
salsa.
it-
Yeah,
gives
you
new
dip them in things, and then what do you do with them?
Leo,
We eat them.
It gave-
You eat them. Yeah, there you go.
But-
So what's
but-
worse than a baby in a blender? Me pulling it out with tortilla chips.
Leo gives new meaning to the term salsa.
Yes. Do a little tap dance, and we got salsa.
Wait. Peter had something to say. It was derogatory against me, but I want to hear it. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay,
Do it.
Peter. Go for it.
Go for it. Well,
Peter-
first you
Peter-
gotta unmute. You gotta unmute your
Peter's
mic,
gonna go
Peter.
for it.
Is this
I like
like
how
a
we
found
can-
footage movie?
God, Peter.
I like we can actually. I like how we can actually see
You were
Jason.
supposed to start a stream, weren't you?
No, but Speed
Yes,
was streaming. I did not want to intrude on his stream.
See, and now I don't
See,
get to slap praise
you're-
around.
But Praise wasn't-
You're the only other person in this fucking community that gives a shit about that. You and me.
It gives a shit about what?
I'm
Starting
so-
streams with
I'm
somebody
so
else.
lost.
has one.
I'm so lost right
Yeah.
now.
I mean-
Okay. So if I see that I have some fellow friends that are streaming, I will not stream 98% of the time because I respect them. I don't
If I
want to pull
plan
them
to
in.
stream and I find out that somebody else is streaming, fuck them. I'm still
You're
streaming.
just being a pussy at that point.
But
If I didn't have
2%
it
of the
planned,
time it
then I'm
works.
probably not going to stream.
But
it.
2% of the time it works every time. Is that what you're trying to say?
I wasn't going to say that, but maybe. But here's the thing, Peter. Praise was already streaming, so he wasn't going to join my stream because Praise is way too conceited to get off of his stream to join somebody else's stream.
He's monetized now, dude.
He ended his stream.
Oh, shit. All right. I'll see y'all later. I'm on
See,
stream.
Gur. Bye, Gur.
Tiger.
Oh boy.
Well,
What-
here's the thing.
what-
I don't
what-
even
what
know
is-
if he would join because last time I had a stream dedicated purely for him, he didn't
He
join.
wouldn't.
Well, why?
He
why
wouldn't.
Yeah, he did.
Like
He did for 5
Okay,
minutes.
he did, but it was like 40 minutes later, and it was only like for 10 minutes, and then he was gone.
Why won't he join though? Like
Oh.
he's such a nice guy, but when you like actually go down, well,
Go
you
down.
head him down. like,
He's a nice, no,
You tell us
immutable.
about it.
Immutable.
He had
He's not
he
a-
had so many nice things to say about me in the
Oh,
stream
yeah,
that
he did.
Yeah, I was
Guys,
watching
guys,
that.
the nice thing ruse with praise, it doesn't work anymore. The guy
did-
threatened to fucking kill me for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
Really?
so he did laugh about my Jay Patrick joke. He found that
Jay.
one funny.
Jay, I think I can see where he's
we're
coming
having fun
from.
at my expense.
Hey, why don't you send him your address to see what he does with it? See if he even knows how to like actually
No, because
actually take
because
things
then
like a man.
no,
Yeah,
because that could
they
be
were
problematic
trying to
since I
figure
own
out
a gun. Since I own a pistol, that's problematic.
Yeah, see, they were trying to figure out where you and Jefferson live during the stream.
I'm just really curious,
What?
now, like morbidly curious.
Yeah.
Like since praise is
Someone in the
frail-
side chat asked where Jefferson lives, and then
What?
I'm
Yeah.
just curious, given I'm just curious, given Praise's level of frailty as a man and like being able to make decisions, how he would handle a fight. I'm just like genuinely fascinated by that prospect.
I can give you a demonstration, and it requires flailing your hands around.
It's like bending before your opponent and begging them not to like knock you the hell out. Like, is that the
I thought it
that what I
required
understand the
running.
interaction to be?
Who's typing?
Oh, it's probably me. Sorry.
Okay.
That would
It's,
be
it's
like-
Jason.
90 words a
You
second.
can see him. He's intently reading something off to his left-hand side.
He's like,
What appears to be his left hand.
Dude,
I type with purpose.
I oftentimes like work while I'm like so I was actually trying to get a model to run. Sorry, I was doing multiple things.
Multitasker stuff.
He's doing sciencey stuff.
Sciencey stuff.
Hold on. You're trying to get a model running? I tried that one time and I got arrested.
Peter,
I think
Peter,
usually
who was
running more than I can get them to stay the fuck still.
Wait, I think we skimmed over something here. Who exactly was attempting to find out where my brother and I lived? Do you know?
It was me.
No, someone in Speeds in Praise's stream asked where Jefferson lived, and then he said you were in California, and Jefferson. I forgot what Jefferson was.
Was it redefined dipshit? I mean, living.
No.
Fucking can't stand that dude.
Yeah, it's probably
You mean redefining stupidity? That's what I call him because that's exactly what he's doing.
That guy is so fucking stupid and dense.
And he's
I
so
can't stand
arrogant
him.
that it's like this dude is like one time I think it wasn't it with you, Peter? Like what was like 6 months ago? He was just a complete ass to you, and and then he came into speech stream, and I was I'm not gonna lie, I kind of bullied the guy.
Good, you should.
I didn't give a shit, dude. I was like, "Fuck no, dude. You don't do that to other people. Fuck no." Dude, he was an ass. To
but
people.
you don't. As an
Real
atheist,
ass.
you don't have any foundation for that.
The name that I gave him was receding hairline living.
Red Fang just said, "Why did I run from praise? He's still alive." No, I'm banned from his channel. He said so, so I'm going to take that serious. And if he now wants me to come back on, yeah, that's not going to happen.
He's got to kiss his Dutch dick.
I subscribed to him to type in the live chat at praises.
He didn't wait to time me out. I didn't even notice, but Germania said, "Why is Peter timed out?" That was probably Gavin.
That's when Praise comes back and he's like, "Dude, I want you to come back. We can have a conversation. Not till you talk to little Tucker first."
Yeah.
I think it was actually Jill who timed you out because I'm a mod on Praise's channel, which I don't know why or how I am, but I am.
Don't lose it. We need
Sell
that.
Yeah.
We need the insiders.
Wait a minute. You don't know how you am that you am on Praise I am channel.
Beautifully poetic, isn't it? Because
I'm
it's his
sorry,
name.
Peter. Can you say that one?
He's rubbing off on you. I think he's rubbing off.
I don't know how I am that I am, but I am a mod on Praise I Am's channel.
Yeah.
But it said that rebuke and reprove timed you out. Gonna go for it out. And I was like,
okay, that figures because we had a lot of fun.
Is
We had a lot of fun with rebuke and reprove, talking about longitudinal lines. So
that person
Leo,
under that name, is that
Leo.
Gavin Herleman or not?
No.
I'm sorry, like, dude, he is the most, and I mean this genuinely. I wish I didn't have to say it, but it's just true. He is genuinely the most unintelligent human being I think I've ever had.
Who is?
Gavin Herleman.
Oh yeah.
Gavin.
I'm not speaking for anybody else here. So somebody else might have somebody
Leo,
way
hold on.
dumber that they talk to.
Leo, hold on.
Me,
I'm
it's
going
Gavin.
to blow your mind. Our dear little friend Jill. I asked him what country was west of the Netherlands, and he said Italy.
No, he didn't.
Which is next to Finland.
No, he didn't.
And then he showed us a map. He showed us a map where Italy actually was west of the Netherlands, but that was because the map was focused on Russia, so Europe was kind of tilted. And then we asked him about longitudinal lines, and guess what he said that those were?
Those lines that go the long way.
Yeah, they go the long way.
Let me guess. Are they conspiracies by the Illuminati?
No, those are the lines that go the long way.
Hey, Peter, I threw that.
Yeah,
at Jill
the latitude lines go the lat way.
Well, I threw that at Jill in a comment thread, and he said, "Well, we're not experts in anything." I'm like, "For fuck's sake, you can look it up on Google."
If you're dumb like me and had to look this up, Italy is actually southeast.
He also said the lines couldn't be trusted because they were blue. They should have been red.
Oh my god!
On some, they are red. What is different?
I really thought that Simus was going to have a heart attack during that conversation. I mean,
he probably took a blood pressure pill.
Does he have a vendetta against certain colors or something?
So
no, he just thinks that arbitrary.
Blue is liberal and red is the correct party.
Red is true.
Blue is weak, fragile, liberal.
Well, just to give you guys an example,
proud, conservative.
Red is Jesus.
Well, just to give you guys an example, he's claiming that he's never kicked me. He goes, I've always let you on a stream. You've always been invited. You've always been allowed on the stream. And I told him, I said, no, there's been multiple times. There's been a few times where my brother or myself have not been allowed on your streams. And then he came back and he said, yes, there's been times where there's one time where I kicked you because you were on a drunken rampage. And I said, no, this isn't true either. Because
lost immutable.
He goes, but I said, because again, you didn't let me on your channel. And he goes, well, you need to show me proof that I kicked you from a stream. And I said, you already admitted that you kicked me from a stream. My claim is that you didn't allow me on your stream, and he apparently can't keep those two things straight.
So you're telling me that praise has the attention of like less than a 4-year-old.
I keep digging it into him that he's not a teacher because of his failure to pay attention to detail.
Have you convinced him yet that he belongs like in a mental asylum or just like in a house?
I think he's already there, Immutable. I think he's already there.
He's definitely not the stupidest person I've met, but that's not exactly a compliment.
Him, Gavin Herleman, and Mr. Batman are like legitimately the three dumbest people I have ever had any interaction with ever.
By the way, Jason, I'll help you out. That is Gavin.
Oh, okay. I recognize his face. Not anything else.
So I have a question, Peter. Is that also his chest, given that he's fucking shirtless on every damn stream?
There's actually less body hair.
it's yeah. There's less hair on this chest than there is on his.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I'm not exactly what you would call I'm not exactly bald in that department, but for Christ's sake, he's got fucking bean sprouts growing out of that fucking
He's
thing.
just a big, strong Australian man.
I mean, I have to say that if I had legs that were that toned, I wouldn't wear pants either.
I don't wear pants, and it's not because my legs aren't toned. It's just
the theme to that image is I'm coming out. I want the world to know. I want to let it show.
Gavin Herman.
I'm currently working on my Smokey Saint impression, which now that he's sick, it's
do you have the laugh down yet? I figured it out. Smokey, there's two types of people he laughs like: stoners and old Mexican dads.
Oh, how's that?
Think about an old Mexican dad.
Like somebody who's seen the Cheech and Chong movies like 400 times, probably.
Yeah, my brother I think has that down better than me. I'm just trying to get down like his what's the term I'm looking for? Just his tone, just the way
I was saying that he sounds like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, like he's got a really creepy, deep voice.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, it
puts
the lotion on its skin, or else it's not holy again.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm working on my Otangelo currently.
I can't get nasally enough.
Look, I still think that Guts Erica has the best Otangelo imitation. If you ever on a stream with her, ask her to do Otangelo. I swear to God,
I don't think I've heard it.
She does multiple good impressions, like LPP as well.
Yeah, oh, dude, her LPP, like, obviously you can tell she's still a female. Her voice doesn't go that deep, but the mannerisms of his speech, she's spot on. I gotta tell you guys, though, the best impression that I've of anybody like
full screen.
that I've seen in YouTube is Dr. Josh's impression of Kent Hovind.
Oh yeah, he did do pretty good one. That was good. He was all dressed up. And everything.
Yeah, he had his hair.
Yeah, I like the one that he does in the video for Skylar Fiction's intro, and he goes, "What was the IQ for down here? 81. Oh, pretty slow down here."
Oh wow! I didn't even notice Gavin doesn't wear.
Oh my god! What the?
Oh, that's a very risky position.
Drink it in, guys. Just like the mug suggests, drink it all in.
That's a very risky position, I'll say.
I have to honestly say, I saw this clip before, and I honestly was like, I don't know if he's not really wearing pants, but seeing this full screen, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, he's definitely he's definitely not being shy with the camera.
No, by the way, this clip was where he was debating a young woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on purpose.
Yeah, I was just about to say he probably did it on purpose.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. I think the problem is because like what you were saying, Leo, he's probably one of the dumbest people you've ever met. He doesn't actually think about the fact that his camera is actually still on when he walks in front of it. He just doesn't actually think about that. He's got he's not thinking about what's going on. Like, hey, this thing's going on.
This was during a debate with Randolph Richardson.
Oh my god, dude!
And he chased a bird, not wearing pants.
So fucking hard. I don't know how Dr. Josh kept a straight face. Oz had to be just fucking sideways laughing. You could see Randolph was trying every fucking thing. He's sitting there just kind of smirking like this.
Well, I asked both of them.
Randolph didn't notice. Randolph only heard about it after the debate because he was looking at a different screen.
Oh, was
they weren't. I asked
but the rest in there. All of them saw it, and
I asked. They saw it. So Tart saw it, but I asked Dr. Josh as well, and he said honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to it.
Is this man unaware of the button that turns off your webcam? I mean, really?
I think it's more.
Neither was Randolph
catching. Like
that's why I think this is an intentional thing, because I think it's like a fetish thing. Like he's a voyeuristic thing. Like you have to know you're doing that on purpose.
Atheist Junior. No, he's literally. This is the guy. This is the guy that thought I was doxing him because he uses his real name, and I searched because he said look up my fight record, and so I looked up Gavin Harleman Australia or New Zealand fight record. And I got an article about him suing his ex-wife for the $250,000.
Did you ever actually find his fight record?
No, nobody did. But he invited people to look up his fight record.
Well, Speed, you remember in our debate against him in Praise that when he said he had the degree or whatever, didn't he say he had a PhD in that debate?
Yeah, he said he was a doctor, but then it turns out he's an acupuncturist or something.
He was a certificate. And because I kept asking him what his credentials were, and he kept saying, "Go check the description of the video." So I did. And towards the end of the debate, I said, "Yeah, this is a certificate for acupuncture. You're not a doctor."
Yeah,
it was.
It was the Australian Society of Acupuncture, and he was the 400th member or something. I think he 400. Maybe he even made that up. I don't know what the fuck.
The thing is, though, too, is like acupuncture by and large is mostly bullshit.
Yeah.
Like
kind of like chiropractic.
It doesn't have like well-known like effects that can be reproduced scientifically.
But you know what I think happened, Leo? Like the day of the debate, he got that certificate in the mail because the whole debate he was telling us that we weren't doctors, so we couldn't debate him. Basically, that we had nothing to say because he was a doctor and we weren't. So I'm thinking he just got it in the mail that morning and was pretty fucking proud of it.
You know, it's interesting with creationists that they're very proud of fields they're not intelligent in, like abiogenesis.
Dunning-Kruger.
Yep.
And when like you talk with them about it, they always mean like, I was trolling Otangelo's Facebook page today, and I almost tagged Leo in it. But like the first thing I said, and I knew
Where
it was
was
going to get a
this
response, was that
Tangelo's Facebook.
like, yeah,
no, he has me blocked.
and I told him, I'm just like, oh, because he was citing James Tor, like, oh, James Tor's an expert. I'm like, yeah, like James Tor showed himself to be like just an incompetent fool on this topic, and really should shut his mouth and just like not talk about it. And the first question he asked me was like, oh, well, do you have do you have any training or degree relevant? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, but when
Yeah,
you
you-
get asked that question, he says, "Oh, it's not important. I don't need it." It's just
Yeah, it's like, when I returned the question to him, he's like,
Yeah,
I don't need to have a degree.
It's weird how creationists, they simultaneously try to appeal to degrees that like they often don't actually have. But then when you try to say, well, I think this because a bunch of like scientists who have accredited degrees in the field and are experts think this, they're like, oh, well, that's an appeal to authority and it doesn't matter because I don't care if they have an education. It's like, this seems like kind of a double standard.
No, the
exactly
really
what it
weird thing is, I agree with Otangelo that you shouldn't, like, that you don't need a degree to talk about these fields like abio. I welcome people who aren't educated on the topic to actually talk about it, because it's a decent way to kind of understand basic chemical principles and how they can be applied to theoretical fields. But my point is, I have training in chemistry, but I don't need it to understand this field.
I mean, there are probably people who have a formal education studying like quantum mechanics and stuff that Leo knows more than them about those fields. I would wager.
It's not that I would say that I know more than them. It's just like Church of Entropy. I don't know more than her. I just think, I'm not going to use the word lying, but I just think that she's saying stuff that, I'll word it this way. I think that she's saying stuff she knows isn't true. Like, it's hard for me to accept that somebody who has an honors degree in physics doesn't know these things.
I actually spoke. My wife's she's a clinical psychologist, and so she's really good at what she does. And I've talked to her about like these people that come online, and they say these things like, nobody knows in the world knows more about this than I do. And she was like flat out narcissistic personality disorder. Like, and anybody that says those kinds of things, they have a personality disorder. Now, it may not be diagnosed, but like, and she's just pontificating because she obviously doesn't know who the person is, but she was like, wow, that's got all the markings of some type of personality.
Yeah, I think she knows the type. She knows the symptoms.
I think there's something else to it as well. I think creationists have to have this perception of themselves as being intelligent for the cause they're trying to promote, which is promoting creationism. And I think that because their point is like, they want to promote scientific points that support creationism as a hypothesis over our naturalistic explanations, and as a result, they're going to say like, oh, well, we know this, like such and such and such can't happen. And they're going to assert that with absolute confidence because they need like to make God look as good of a model as it can be, even though they don't actually explain how God does anything.
Well, I saw an interesting quote from Dr. Jason Lyle. I think he actually has a legitimate degree, but I don't know.
Yes, he does.
He has a PhD in astrophysics, but he lies. So
yeah, and that's the thing.
All the time. I know
even when they have a legitimate degree. But anyway, what he said was that he was talking about the round trip speed of light, and he was saying that God set the speed limit for the round trip speed of light.
Yeah.
You missed a good physics show with Leo and David Neff.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
That was very good.
Yeah, I went over Jason Lyle's supposed model that he has, the anisotropic synchrony convention, and explain, number one, how it doesn't even do what he thinks it does by his own admission because it's a convention, and number two, that the premise that he's starting with to infer this supposed model defeats the model.
Were you responding to him in general, or were you responding to the SFT video that has him?
I was responding to him in general because it's probably the most popular response to the distant starlight problem is Jason Lyle's anisotropic synchrony convention.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've never heard that objection brought up because my understanding of physics is basically, why would you assume like that the speed of light going in one direction or traveling from A to B is any different than traveling from B to A? Like there's nothing to merit like the assumption that there's a change in.
Well,
like,
my guess would
velocity.
just be that it's something where we can't measure that, so they use it as sort of a God of the gaps argument. So.
No, it's not a God of the gaps, because they're not arguing, well, this is a gap in our understanding, therefore God fills it. What it is it's just him utilizing an entire, literally just a convention, some arbitrary thing he just pulled up that ultimately doesn't change the physics because it's just merely conventional. Specifically so he can try to argue away the distant starlight problem. That's all this is. An arbitrary convention that was pulled out of his ass to get around the distant starlight problem. That's it. That this is nothing more than that.
It just feels like it's a really weird kind of like objection to make, because I'd be more charitable to it like if there was a reason you suspected that there was something that would cause the velocity to change.
I mean, isn't it that, I mean, again, I don't really know much about this other than I know that there is controversy around just being able to measure the distance to and from, but aren't they just essentially seeing a gap in knowledge and then trying to capitalize on that by then trying to explain, therefore, God? Seems like
not with the anisotropic synchrony convention. Like I said, it isn't a lack of understanding of something that we need God to explain. It's, well, see, I could just change the convention that we use for the speed of light, and then the distant starlight problem, if I use that convention, can be argued away. So I'm going to do that so I don't have to deal with the distant starlight problem. That's all it is.
Yeah, like essentially that the speed going one of the directions is like
from point
much
A to point B
slower
can't be
or
measured.
faster.
Yeah, it can't be measured, but from point A to point B back to point A can be measured. That's actually true. We can't physically measure the velocity of a photon moving from a point A to a point B. It has to go round trip, and that's because of special relativity. One of the two fundamental postulates of special relativity being that the speed of light is constant in all frames of reference. So the very thing that is being utilized to invoke the anisotropic synchrony convention, special relativistic effects with measuring the speed of light, it means that you have to accept that the fundamental tenets of special relativity, one of them being that the speed of light is constant, you have to accept that. It's a self-defeating argument.
Yeah, I mean, but it is interesting because that same like just concept is applied in a lot of areas for folks like Otangelo, who wants to say we don't have the full knowledge of abiogenesis, therefore God. Therefore, because we can't fully explain that somehow means that he smuggles God into that discussion because there's some unknown component to that. Similarly, anyways,
and in the conversation you had with him at the end, when you started pressing him on him having the full knowledge on how God created and him then rage quitting, that was
he does that a lot.
Pretty much it.
But the thing with Otangelo is
he loves his double standards.
His abiogenesis argument is most literally, well, science hasn't explained it yet, so it must be God. Like that's literally what his argument boils down to.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's hard for me to believe that Otangelo is so like incompetent when it comes to logic in this way. But if you say something is impossible, it means it can't occur.
I watched Danny and Tom Rabbit try to walk him through this, and they walked him to the conclusion slowly, like holding his hand, and then they brought him back to the start and tried to bring him down much more quickly, and like he was being as stubborn as a fucking mule going back down once he realized the conclusion.
But the thing is,
fucking hilarious to watch.
I'm curious to think why these creationists think that God somehow makes things that are impossible possible, because that's not the way it works.
Who knows?
Like I don't know. Like they want to claim that they're really like sound on the logic frontier and that their position is so much more logical than ours and all this, and it's just like you don't understand a basic idea of what what something being impossible means. Really?
And
Okay.
the other thing about like his argument, and really all of them, is that when you point out that their argument is really just so, well, science can't explain it, therefore it's God. Terrence will go, oh no, that's not what I'm doing. This is an inference to the best explanation. And I say, you're inferring God based on what? The fact that science hasn't explained it yet?
Yeah, essentially that's literally what he's doing.
Hey, Leo,
But
Andrew has a question for you.
No.
Okay, there you go.
Nothing in physics changes if you use his convention, because it's a convention. And so the way I explained it, and the way I explain it, is like this. You have a table. The table has some set length. I mean, you can't change that. Obviously, we're not granting that you could saw it off. That's not part of the hypothetical. You can't. The length of the table stays the length that it is. Now, I could measure it in inches, and that's fine. I'll get the length of the table. I could measure it in centimeters, and I'll get the length of the table. I could measure it in meters, and I'll get the length of the table. But just because if I measure it in centimeters, I'll get more of each individual unit than if I measured it in inches, because it's, I think, 2.2 centimeters for every inch, does not mean that if I measure it in centimeters, I'm actually making the table longer, which is ultimately what Jason's argument is that by changing the convention, he's changing the actual velocity that a photon travels at, which is not true. So it's merely a convention. It doesn't change the physics, just like going from inches to centimeters doesn't actually change the distance of a table. You're just changing the convention that which you use to measure it. It does complicate the physics, though, much like the imperial system complicates physics because we use the standard system. It's much easier. I think everybody here would probably agree. It's much easier to use the standard system over the imperial system.
The metric system.
The standard system is what it's called. It is the international standard system of measurements.
Okay.
Oh, and Jason, did you ever get Dessel Drace's emails?
Yeah, I did. He sent me some emails about some literature on abiogenesis. I did get those. Yeah. Thanks, Dessel. Appreciate that.
Yeah, the thing is, I like reading the technical literature, but it takes a long time for me to really get my teeth into it and understand what the fuck they're talking about, because it's pretty high level. Not sure if anybody else has kind of encountered that issue or encountered that kind of grievance.
I have hard enough time keeping up with the literature in my own discipline, frankly. And I've been doing more work I'm on a COVID team, so I'm working on a couple papers that involve risk exposure with COVID and modeling some of that stuff. So it's an additional area of research to kind of delve into. So it's always a challenge to kind of stay on top of the literature,
even for professionals.
Definitely. I mean, even if you were in one specific discipline, oftentimes people are struggle to stay ahead of the curve.
Read tweets from Sean Carroll talking about technical literature in theoretical physics, and him saying, I don't know what the fuck this says.
Exactly. I can only imagine.
Don't know what the fuck this says.
Yeah. Yeah, you always question yourself, because if there's some even people that are extremely are experts in an area read a paper and they question whether either the paper is full of shit or whether they're just not understanding it, and you're always gauging it to be I don't want to assume that this person is just not understanding this area, or I myself am just not comprehending what they're actually trying to say. So
in a weird way, this kind of reminds me of what I've come to call James tourism, of him just being able to spot these players it's bullshit. It's
yeah.
The thing is, the methodologies that have been developed for AA Bio are very specific and very nuanced, and frankly, I'm not an organic chemist. I admire the hell out of people that are, and people that work with synthetic problems and stuff. And so James Tour has my respect there. But I'm not bold enough to say that, that their methods are wrong, because the disciplines and methodologies they utilize to do their own work is going to be different from the way you tackle problems in your own area. So who are you to judge the legitimacy and efficacy of the methods they're using? Because even people like that are within like the discipline that I'm curious in, you go like slightly outside of the type of research I'm interested in, and you encounter like very really different methodologies for dealing with these problems, because you need different methodologies to address different types of problems. And unless you're like really well read into how those methodologies are performed and like what the standards are, you're not really on a firm leg to stand on in regards to the efficacy of those results, unless you're like really familiarized with that set of procedures.
Like, I don't even know like what conferences you would go to for this particular area. Like what conferences, like if James Tour had an area of research that was was in an abiogenesis area that is maybe outside of his analytical chemistry area. Like if he were to present a paper or research at a conference, like which conference that would be. But I can tell you, like for me, I usually go to things like American Geophysical Union. And if I was doing some research and on a very specific topic and I presented at that conference, hopefully the room would be full, you hope so. But if the people that are there are going to like be very focused in that area, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, in that particular area. So if he was like focused in that area of abiogenesis and went to a conference and presented, I'm imagining he'd get questioned really hard by other people.
Well, Scott and I went to one of those conferences when was that, Scott? This spring that Dameron invited us to?
Yeah,
I went there too, by the way.
Sometime.
But there are I think there's one really big abio conference, and that's the one that we went to, that Damer, and I keep mispronouncing his name. And there are a few others on just abio, but Tour would never last at any of those. He would be laughed off the stage.
Well, you guys did watch Professor Dave's, both his response videos. He brought in somebody who wasn't even an abio researcher, but it was also a synthetic organic chemist, and who also said, look, I don't know anything about this field, but I can certainly tell you neither does James Tour.
Yeah.
Well, he had some of the famous abio people on.
And Eugene Gooden, I think, was one of them. And they all said, I mean, James Tour is very well respected in his niche, in his field. When it comes to this, what they said is, and obviously I'm saying it much more strongly than they would have, but I just the way that they said it kind of made it seem like they were saying, when it comes to this field, he needs to just shut his mouth and go back to his carbon. That's what he needs.
Pretty much.
He could go to a conference, an abiogenesis conference, and there would be like students that would be like graduate students that would be like, excuse me, but that's not right. That's not how that works. I mean, he just doesn't want to do that. He doesn't care.
The thing is, a lot of people distance themselves from James Tour on this particular topic because, first of all, James Tour quite obviously has like some kind of emotional like issue with this topic.
An emotional attachment to it because of his religious beliefs.
It's
a good thing he's tenured at Rice University.
He doesn't understand and fails to define properly like basic terminology that's central to origin of life studies, like autocatalysis, and understanding like basic geochemical settings that are relevant towards that field.
I agree with Dave on his assessment of why that is. That it's not that he doesn't understand it; it's that he knows that his audience wants to hear him say these things, and they'll just believe him, not fact check him. So he just misinterprets what the science is actually saying.
I genuinely think he doesn't understand them, because he thinks that hydrothermal fields or hydrothermal vents are like actually existing. Like he doesn't know they actually are things that exist. Like that's one of the things he claimed in his videos, like that about the existence of these types of environments, because that's one of the things he attacked Dave on about the chemistry that occurs within hydrothermal fields and hydrothermal vents. So
that they don't exist anymore,
but that they're fake, essentially. That they're not.
God.
Well, yeah, he's not saying that because he believes it. He's saying it because he knows the audience that are watching his videos.
But
he's just playing through their ear.
He's that ignorant.
I not of the basics in chemistry.
No,
of abiogenesis.
Yeah, this is geology.
Yes, and the thing is too, The other reason people avoid him is, well, number one, you can't properly define terms, so why are we taking you seriously? Number two, though, is that he's personally tried to like defame some of the people like who are very central to Origin of Life, like Sutherland and Shostak, like essentially claiming that they're fraudulent.
Yeah,
like their results are fraudulent and that they're fakes and that, you know, all this other stuff. And it's like, wow, you've got some serious balls on you, like to attack a Nobel Prize winner and to just kind of like just be so enraged to call these people, you know, fraudulent when you haven't published in any research journal actually raising like contentions in a professional setting to address what issues you think exist in this field.
I'm guessing that his YouTube channel is going to come back on him a little bit in his standing in the university.
But I mean,
that's my guess.
I don't encourage people to like harp on him in regards to that. The thing is, though, Tor really just needs to shut up about this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Either shut up or get more educated on this field in regards to
actually engage with the researchers. But I did want to say, Speed, tenure. The tenure can be ended generally one of two ways. Either the professor leaves of their own accord, or you do something really bad. I'm talking like theft, like something legal, like sexual harassment, other forms of harassment, embezzlement, stealing, things like that. Other than that, that was the whole point of universities doing tenure, is so that when they get the professionals that know their stuff in the fields that they're involved in, like James Tour does, because let's be honest, in his field, he knows what the fuck he's talking about. But when they have asinine views on a lot of other things, they can't be reprimanded for that. Because let's be honest, I mean, we all know it's bullshit. All the professionals know know that what he's saying is bullshit. He's a blip on the radar who's appealing to an extraordinarily small band of already scientifically illiterate dumb shits on the internet. He's not somebody that they're really even concerned about.
And Leo,
he's
please,
not really doing any harm. So
please don't read the private chat out loud, Leo. I know you've done that.
Why would I do that?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
The thing is, too, I think a lot of researchers have more respect for Tor than he has for them, in the sense that if they wanted to, they probably could start some stuff with the university that Tor attends, just because of how Tor's etiquette has been toward some of these researchers, and essentially trying to.
You don't think Rice already knows about that?
I
would bet they do.
I don't think
he hasn't done anything illegal or truly like academic fraud. If it's not academic fraud and it's not illegal, good luck losing your tenure.
Yeah, I don't think
Hello.
Like the court is attacked and want him to lose his standing with the university.
I honestly don't think Rice University would want to fire him. Let's be honest, dude. In his field, and I want to clarify that point. In that part, in his field, James Tour is a titan. I mean, he really is. It's just he needs to just shut up when it comes to abiogenesis. It's about
I think if universities are discovering that you're defaming people improperly and you're trying to cause other people to like be removed from their position in a university just because you don't like the research they're doing, that can be.
I would have to see evidence on the intent. I would have to see evidence on the extent of his attempts at doing this, because I can't just agree that he has. I'd have to see some data. And if this was a serious thing, then Rice University knows about it. Their departments follow.
Did you do that to him, Scott?
Yeah.
And they're gonna examine these things background and are gonna say, look, is this academic fraud? No. Is this illegal? No. Then leave them alone.
If you want to talk about like real world example, just remind yourself of when Tor went to the Discovery Institute and essentially claimed that the type of articles that Jack Shostak and other people were writing were equivalent to essentially like a broad spanning article on Nature that was intended for a public audience to explain what research being done on the origin of life is and what they were discovering. So, I mean, at worst, it's maligning their character.
He said, I don't like this thing these people wrote.
He's saying that essentially that they're not doing real research.
So he just said, "Oh well, this isn't real research." Okay, there's no harm in that. Okay, she's not going to get fired for that. That's not academic fraud.
He's not going to get fired.
Saying to somebody, "Oh, you're not doing real research," they're going to go, oh,
"Look,
this isn't even your field, dude. I don't care what you have to say."
What he's claiming is that the research that people are doing is fraudulent, and that can be a very serious.
Universities are just like, I mean, they're like, certainly because somebody is tenured, that provides a certain level of security. But, and I would agree with Leo that usually you really have to do something egregious to get the university to come down upon you.
I mean, look at Avi Loeb and the dumb shit he's been spewing about the. I mean, and he's at Harvard now.
But imagine
think about how they have to protect their image. But you know they haven't even said anything to him.
Imagine what goes on in a faculty meeting or amongst the faculty in the chemistry or the he's in like material and nano particle,
like nanotechnology,
nano engineering. Yeah. Like imagine like if you were able to speak with some of those folks and says, "What's your impression of James off the record, etc." They would be like, "Nut job." I mean, I'm not saying they would say that, but they could be like, totally, he's visionary in his particular area, but he's kind of off in this wild area that we don't really like condone.
Respect.
But you're probably right in that because he's so established.
So Jason, there was something in one of his videos where he said that he's a PhD advisor, and students come to him, and he steers them away from abiogenesis or anything having to do with that kind of research.
Oh yeah,
isn't that just a little bit of a, because for religious reasons, isn't that a bit of a stretch?
You know what? In these specific areas of like academic expertise, recommendations to students, how you teach your class, the reality is that professors have an iron grip on that unless they're doing something.
They have a high level of autonomy on that.
They do. So he could be like, "Look, I'm established chemist. If I want to make recommendations to my students not to pursue those areas, I'm fully within my rights, and nobody's going to say anything to him about that." But what I would say is that if the university is aware, like at the administrative level, of some of these aspects, and there's blowback, like they're getting less funding, like donors aren't providing money, or there's blowback that has negative consequences, like people don't want to like take the classes, things of that nature, then they start, like, he's got to have a review, like he gets reviewed every year. He has an annual review, and they could be like, "Look, James, we're not saying that you can't do these things, on your side work, but you know what? Rice University doesn't condone those positions. If you're going to say things on some YouTube, don't use Rice University's name. Don't, he's probably been told that,
Yes. Yeah. He probably had to consult with, I would imagine, I don't know, the faculty department or whatever the hell you'd call it. When he got a YouTube channel, I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure in some places or in some positions, you've got to notify your department, "Hey, I'm starting a YouTube channel where I'm doing some, public lecturing, education, commentary about, chemistry and stuff like that." And then he already knows that he knows what he can and can't say as it comes to Rice University and everything, like a lot of these people, when they have Twitter accounts, have to say, retweets do not equal endorsement. Yeah. Anything I say is not necessarily the opinions of my employer, stuff. It's a lot of times their company mandates that they have to put that stuff on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the university does if they work at a university. Like if James Tour really had done anything that was worthy of him losing his tenure, I feel very confident he wouldn't have tenure right now. Universities are they like to stay on top of that because all of them have images to maintain. There's a level of formality and rigor that has to be maintained at even the smallest universities.
I think, unfortunately, the level of research and the type of research that James Tour presents, and simply his value as being an entrepreneur, the type of research he has, they would probably be a little bit more lenient before they decide to act upon removing him from that kind of position. So even if I think even if he has done something, that's a little bit, not exactly within ethical guidelines, the university probably would be a little bit more forgiving than they would.
Yeah.
Because
I'm imagining like he has a bunch of patents. I'm imagining that he has developed technology of which have been patented and licensed to other businesses. Those licenses, the Rice University definitely gets a cut of that licensing. So probably has an agreement with the university that's like a certain percentage of the money that comes in from a license of work that he's done goes to Rice University. That I'm sure that's a considerable amount of money.
Yeah, he does.
So
he has a significant number of students that have gone on and made business and made businesses and patents and all that, all the fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, he's not a dumb guy. Like, he's a smart, he's a smart guy for being able to, to make innovations and research within the field that he's in. But
definitely,
it'd be like me telling like a geochemist that because I understand chemistry, that the geochemistry you're doing is just bullshit. Well, no, that doesn't follow. Like,
I mean, if he wanted to explore the abiogenesis area, I mean, there's nothing precluding him from doing that and publishing in those areas. But I think the thing that probably gives a bad taste in other researchers' mouth is when he mixes in the religion piece. Like, if he wants to be religious, that's fine. And if he just talked about abiogenesis and never mentioned religion, and he was religious and he's had those things separate, I think people be okay with that. But if like mixing that stuff up together, I think it's like
I don't even think most people are overly like beat up over the religious aspect, because there's scientists who like believe in God or don't believe in God, and most people it isn't a big deal. But the thing is, I think most people are probably frustrated because what you would expect in academia is that if a person did have legitimate concerns about the type of research somebody is doing or the efficacy of methods that somebody's using, you'll see those papers published, right? You'll see people publish opinion pieces or reviewing somebody's work in regards to, in requesting that person makes the study more rigid, and to see like if the results can be replicated under stricter conditions than what was originally presented. But again, we don't see that from Tor. We don't see him actually engaging the technical literature or engaging these researchers in a way that actually strengthens the field. And I think that's kind of like the tip-off that's saying, like, he's just doing this because it appeals to an audience. He's not genuinely interested in origin of life chemistry or processes that involve origin of life.
But shit, there's a lot of academics that like spin off like pop books and things that are like very like appealing to the masses, and they tap into that money. There are a lot of folks that do that.
Shit,
exactly.
Being a medical doctor to being quantum woo doctor.
Yeah, those, and
I think most professional researchers though understand that reading pop sci books on these things is not going to give you a sufficient understanding as towards like what the field says about like what the current perspective is on the field regarding like hydrothermal field chemistry, or like if
agreed,
or anything like regarding that type of stuff. So I mean, pop science can do so much for you, but it's not going to settle problems for you that regard.
Totally agree, but you got to remember there's like diverging goals here. Like, and I honestly think like if you're a biologist or chemist or geochemist and if you were publishing and talking about your research and you're interjecting religious pontification, you're going to get less respect. Like eventually people are going to be like, I don't know if we want to publish this paper. Like like stick to the science. Stop. You want to publish in a philosophical journal, go for it. But we don't want to publish that here. But if your goal is to like, you're James Tor and you're like, I've got what's he got? 650 research publications. That's a shitload of research publications.
Yeah,
like he obviously is established in his particular area. He may be like, I don't give a shit about publishing more research papers. You know what I want to do? I want to make some money. I want to tap into this area that I know where this intersection of religion. I'm religious.
So he's a capitalist.
Well, you know, hey,
which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that there are differing goals with regards to like pushing forward the discipline versus tapping into like people's viewpoints religiously and seeing it as an opportunity to capitalize on that.
He's got 1 million patents, so he's probably a pretty wealthy man.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a financial motivation.
Hey, Speed, you know, if you start buying books, you'd be pretty wealthy too.
I would have been. It's a little late. That ship has sailed.
And Jason, like, what's really important too is like, what's important in frontier research isn't always experimental evidence. There's good theoretical reasons like why you might not expect something to occur. In terms of like physical process or in terms of some chemical or whatever the case may be, and there's technical analysis that goes into and directs like future research in that matter, and that can be just as influential. I mean, the only thing is as much as physical experimental research is hard, you have to put in the legwork. You kind of have to survey what the field has been doing and what the current evidence suggests in terms of what isn't working or what types of environments might be more plausible or not, and why you believe this environment A is better than this environment B to facilitate some chemical reaction to transform X into Y. So you can contribute to the field in that way, but it's something that takes a lot of time. It's not just something that basic chemistry is going to give you a full insight as to how this issue is going to be solved. I mean, hell, the notion of systems chemistry was designed for the purpose of abiogenesis, was intended to occur so that we could study how systems of chemicals act when the environment changes, is in flux, because we know that the conditions of prebiotic Earth were changing, and that there's chemistry that occurs like in different phases.
Don't let me distract you.
I'll try.
Have you ever done any? I put it in a chat about Speed. Have you ever had any experience? Probably not, but I mean, like, I took a class when I was an undergrad. Was it an undergrad or graduate? In scanning electron microscopy.
Oh, no.
I thought it was fascinating. It was so cool.
I have dreams of buying one of those, but it's just it's a lot of work to prepare stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because like they teach you how to like coat your samples in different materials. And like at the time I took it, you know, I think now the machines, you can get them smaller, but the one I was working on was huge, and it required like the full class to even understand how to use it, and it had like an what is it? Not X-ray diffraction, but it had another way of examining chemical compositions of the images that you were taking.
They have new techniques now where they're using like freezing techniques and stuff, and they're like able to get some like real life pictures of things, which has been very difficult in the past. And when it comes down to looking really into cells, I mean really deeply into cells and tissues, it's just amazing how little we know, and you know, and how quickly they're proceeding on learning that stuff. But there's just a ton of stuff about that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of the focus now kind of appears to be, at least if you're talking about, it really depends on scope, and that's true for everything. But I'd say if you're talking about something like cell biology, probably the most interesting stuff. Like, there's still basic problems we don't quite understand the solution to yet.
Yeah, like I'm looking into how the embryogenesis of veins and arteries, and while they do know a few things, they don't know everything about it yet. and it's really an interesting field. I mean, when you imagine how does a vein form in an embryo, how do we end up with capillaries all over our body and stuff? So I was looking into that today, and there are like 3 different ways that happens, and they're all fascinating as hell. I mean, it's really amazing what.
I mean, the work that I
you notice you contradicted yourself there at a moment ago. Speed.
Me? Yeah. Oh, I always do that.
Yeah, you talked about real live pictures, whereas we are looking at real dead pictures.
Oh yeah, these are real dead pictures. But I just made this movie while I was muted a little while back, and I just put these bugs in a little bowl, or I had them in a big bag, and I took them out of the bag, which is really a bitch because the bag is huge. It's a construction bag. And got them all on the microscope, and then put them in a little bowl.
You put the bugs in a bowl? Are you going to add whipped cream too?
No, I don't do that, Peter. I live in America.
What's really
I'm sorry, go ahead. No,
what's
dream as big as you want to.
What's actually kind of interesting.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll stop singing country music.
Yeah. What's actually pretty interesting, and I think this is the correct method you can use if you want to like visually, like actually kind of see what a molecule looks like in terms of like its actual structure. You can use a technique called transmission electron microscopy, it's called TEM. I think it's transmission electron microscopy, and it works by essentially using a silicon probe, and it kind of it bonds with these molecules in such a way that it's very easy to cause the silicon part of the molecule to detach, and when it does, it gives off it gives a rating in terms of like how much energy it took to break that bond. And you can do that for every part of a molecule and kind of gauge what the what the structure of a molecule is for fairly basic molecules using that method.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty interesting. Most people don't know that.
Yeah, I want to look further into these insects, and I would love to be able to dissect them, but they're so goddamn tiny that you would have to have like a machine to cut them apart and stuff, and then prepare slides, figure out what these structures are really like, because I have like thousands of different insects, and every one has this just amazing morphology, and I do it with plants too, and it just really interests me to be able to look a little deeper. And this microscope's pretty good, but there's, I could go further if I had the time. It would be pretty cool. That little guy with the red eyes is pretty neat.
A lot of the stuff that I do is spatiotemporal modeling. So I use methods to understand relationships of whatever variables in time and space, which has a lot to do with geographic information systems, things of that nature. And I've always been fascinated at folks who are interested in the microscopic level of structures and understanding the spatial relationships.
Right.
I always thought that was like actually using statistical modeling to understand those relationships of a cell. That would be so cool. Yeah,
what I'd really like to do is use like these game engines have they have physics engines, to basically do games.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking for a soft body physics engine that that like if you throw a ball, it would compress, and basically you can pull things because you can model how an embryo develops. And it's amazing how it works. There's all these different physical forces combined with cell signaling, combined with little actin filaments that push the cell out in various shapes, and it's just an amazing thing. Like today, I was looking at the very early development of the liver, and a lot of embryology is like this. But there's like this little bud that's got cells in it, and then it bursts open into this space, and that becomes your liver. But it's like it grows to a certain point and it ruptures, you know, and then it blows out into the space, and then it starts forming, and it creates this complicated liver structure. And it's just, if you could do animations like that with a soft body physics engine, that would be an incredible. There would be a YouTube site that would get a 10 million views. That would be pretty cool. But I can't find a soft body physics engine. I found some, but they don't quite have what I need in order to model a cell. So it'd be pretty cool to do. If anybody knows of one, please tell me about it, because damn it, that would be.
This is that intersection of like process modeling and empirical modeling. So like in a lot of the folks, like I do a lot of stuff with agriculture. And so I'm mostly interested in empirical models. So I'm just interested in how can I statistically model and understand the relationships, as an example, crop growth in relationships to climate. But some people are like, oh, how can I, from a process model perspective, simulate crop growth? Like I know all the physics of a crop. How can I just simulate the growth of the crop? And then those are like totally different modeling techniques. But I'm imagining biology has a lot of process models where they, like you were saying, they simulate the growth of an embryo, you know? Just based on the physics of the embryo, or the chemical interactions, they understand that, you know.
I'm doing one with RNA and peptides right now in Python that's turning out to be really interesting, but it's so many parameters. But the feeling that I have after writing 800 to 1,000 lines of code is that I have a laboratory in software, and that's kind of what you're talking about. Like this is a lab. All I have to do is change the ratio of nucleic acids, and I have a totally different model that I built, and it's really cool. So, and I've been able to turn some of it into graphics, and it's very fascinating. And then the beauty of it is that you don't have, like my niece is a botanist, and she's working at the University of Minnesota. They have to wait all season to get their results. But if you could model it, you know, I mean, if you computer model, you can run 1,000 centuries in an afternoon, you know.
Yep.
Figure out what you got. It's pretty cool. Are you into soil structure at all?
Yeah, I mean, my master's work was on soil erosion and sediment yields and modeling surficial processes with regards to sediment yield, but not so much like soil structures, but more about the kind of, you know, modeling erosion using the differing standard erosion model that are, you know, already in development.
Yeah, you probably got a lot to say to the young Earth creationists about this whole flood idea.
Like I was saying, I thought I said it to you guys that I've been reading this book by David Montgomery on he's got a book about the intersection of Noah's flood and global floods and geology. What does flood geology have to say about Noah's flood?
What's the name of that book?
It's called The Rocks Don't Lie. I think you showed it before. Yeah.
And I just bought the other one that Erica recommended, and I forget the name of that one, but I got that upstairs as my cooking reader. I always have a book available while I'm waiting for a pot to boil.
But this guy goes through like all the kind of like classic like things that creationists throw out about like why, like he goes into like the fossil record really extensively. He talks about the Grand Canyon a lot of like why that could not be the case of it being due to a catastrophic flood. But he does have some really good positions around, like, we know for a fact that there have been regionalized catastrophic floods all over the world, and we have evidence of that. And it very well may be that Noah's flood is essentially just a regionalized flood that occurred at the time, and then it just got mythically spun up into this global flood event.
I think most people that read Noah's flood come to the impression of it that it's a local flood. Yeah, like that's the most logical interpretation of it to take.
Well, there was a flood. There was a giant flood in Minnesota that carved the Minnesota River, I think. But the floods in Washington and Seattle from the glacial dams. Those things, there was water, 200 feet high, and it was blasting out the bedrock.
Yeah, sure. Like there's floods that are crazy. I mean, and do like all sorts of interesting stuff.
But none of them created a stratified rock layer like the Grand Canyon. They created a big heap, a big mound of shit here and there. But there was nothing stratified, and there was no mastodon sorting or mammoth sorting, fossil sorting. None of that shit.
Never formed any mountains.
Standing for Truth had this guy on. His last name was Ord.
Michael Ord. Michael Ord. Yeah.
Which I wasn't impressed at all with that guy.
Oh my God!
Was that the weird Outlander looking guy, or am I thinking of somebody else?
So, Jason, did you hear George Bond talk about the Ashley phosphate beds?
Never mind.
No, I didn't.
Okay, the Ashley phosphate beds. There was a book written by this guy named Holmes back in 1880. And in that book, they had just created the first stuffed dinosaur in a museum. And I forget what it was exactly. But he threw one word in his book that referenced the dinosaur. He was listing all the things that they found all together, like whales and sharks and stuff. And he threw in the name of this dinosaur. And who knows why he did it in 1880, right? And the guy was, I think he was like a real estate developer or something, turned geologist. And he studied these Ashley phosphate beds. And then when you look into it and you read there are some geological surveys and reports on it, there's nothing about dinosaurs in this phosphate bed. But George Bond is still bringing it up. It's a big creationist thing. They were bringing it up like once a week a year ago. And I couldn't believe that George Bond brought it up again. But we did a video on it with Wilford, Mr. Wilford. What is his? God, why did I forget his name? He's a geology student. You've run into him in this community, I'm sure. Yep. But if you haven't, you should really meet him because he's pretty good. He's pretty cool. But anyway, they keep bringing up crazy shit like that, Yeah,
no, I thought that guy, he was out there. Like the positions he had were completely ridiculous. And actually, in the Standing for Truth chat, I put in a question, and my question was, how do you explain the things like in the Devonian sandstones? You see interlacing between known desert formations and marine sedimentation. Like you see interlacing of layers, and it's caused due to kind of the in and out of seashores over long periods of time that end up like interlacing, like marine, but they're intersected. And I was like, how do you explain that in a global flood? And he essentially tried to make a claim that they're not desert formations.
I heard that response. I was watching. Yeah, so this guy, the guy was mentioned his name Colton or Corporal Anon or Mr. Wilford, and you should get in touch with him because he's a geology student.
Okay.
Maybe graduated by now, but he knows his shit, and he's done debates with SFT and a few others, so he's really, really good at it.
Yeah, I'm trying to I don't know if you know this guy. His name's Pat Lowinger. He's he goes on Amy Newman's stream. Leo knows him. He's he's working on his PhD at the University of Leicester.
Okay.
And Leicester, yeah, it's one of
those. But he's I
think it's Leicester, but I could be wrong.
He's an anthropologist, studies Mediterranean history, etc. But he and I are trying to get a debate together to debate some couple people on this topic of young Earth creationism that intersects with Noah's Ark, the historicity of the Bible.
Can I ask you a quick question? What platform are you looking to do it on?
We're fine with wherever. You mean YouTube or Twitch, or you mean which channel?
Which channel?
I'm actually fine wherever. I think Pat sees this as an opportunity to get more exposure for himself on YouTube and to kind of move up the food chain of like more sophisticated debaters. So I think we're fine with anywhere, but as long as
I'm going to be
like,
honest, debating creationists, I honestly think, and the smart people are going to know why, I honestly think the best channel to debate creationists on is Standing for Truth's channel. Not only can he get the academic creationists, because he can, but everyone in that audience, 90% of them will be creationists. Why would you want to go to modern day debates? Big. It's about
it's a lot of atheists.
That audience is largely left leaning and largely atheist and largely secular. So if you want to discuss creationists with the hope, or debate or discuss with creationists and with the hope of changing some minds, you want to do it in their den where they're all listening to you. That's Standing for Truth's channel 100%.
And Stanley would love to have you because he'll do anything to peddle his channel and his ministry.
Yes, he
so.
will. Yes, he will.
Yeah,
the only downside of that is that you are helping him peddle his ministry. So.
Yeah, I can't understand that he's got this channel, but it's essentially a ministry. That's
it's a ministry. Well, he calls it a ministry now. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
He's moving on up. He is the Kanthoven of the next couple of decades.
Okay.
Yep.
Leo. That's a really good point. I think you're absolutely right, and I think that Pat and we're both willing to go into the lion's den. I'm fine with that. So,
Standing for Truth is not horrible as a moderator.
I'll do the after show.
He's not the greatest moderator ever. I mean, he's but he's not bad. I trust him as a moderator over a lot of others. That's one thing I can give him.
So you two are looking for debate partners. You have Stanley's email, don't you?
Standing for Truth's email.
Stanley for Truth, yeah.
I don't think I have his email.
I can put you in touch with him because I'm sure he'd love to do he'll do a debate.
100%. He'll get you the people. All you got to do is what topic are you guys looking for?
This intersection of the topic of young earth creationism, but from like the kind of twofold perspective of the naturalism scientific perspective, but then the biblical historicity perspective. So if we picked like Noah's flood obviously has an intersection with young earth creationism, but also I think Pat's perspective is what from an archaeological, anthropological perspective, he wants to talk about that Noah's flood and those aspects with regards to that from an anthropological perspective and how it's mythic and not supported in other ways. So I think that's what we're looking for is some that young earth creation and piece, but maybe like somebody who is a scientist and then a purported scientist and somebody that is a biblical literalist or somebody who wants to talk about the history of the Bible.
Oh, he's got a lot of guys for you. So that would be
honestly
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that a debate on the veracity of Noah's flood would be a good one. The general topic of biblical historicity, I think, would be another one that you guys could do, and you could point out things like the Exodus, like Noah's flood that didn't happen, to show that the Bible, while it does have a very, very small amount of historicity to it, there isn't much to be found beyond what little is that we know is there.
Yeah.
And I think either two of those would be broad enough for what it seems like you guys are really wanting to go for.
And I think like you guys can see the intersection of like when somebody makes a claim that the earth is 6,000 years old, they're directly pulling from the Bible that based on what the Bible is literally saying, we're making a connection to that 6,000 years old perspective. And then people go to the next step and say, okay, how do I back into this view that the earth physically, scientifically is 6,000 years old? And then you get into the Nephilim freeze who are trying to somehow spin the evidence that would suggest that we can show scientific evidence that the earth is only 6,000 years old. So
yeah, it sounds like you guys should go for a biblical historicity. Like just a general debate on that, because you could touch on a lot of different stuff and be able to hit a lot of different points with young earth creationism, age of the earth, Noah's flood, Exodus, creation of life, and all that stuff could be hit with just the topic of biblical historicity. And it seems like you guys are really trying to go broad because you're definitely going to want to come to him, go to standing with the topic, because that's going to help him figure out who he needs to pick.
Yeah, and I can tell you that I know I had these conversations with Pat. Pat sees this as an opportunity. Like, Pat wants to write a book on this stuff. He wants to write a book on this intersection of religiosity. And we were having these conversations about, like, why do people believe what they believe? Like, why do people believe religiously what they believe? How are they able to, like, overcome these views scientifically? And so it's kind of like an intersection of this historicity, science, but it also has kind of a psychology, cognitive dissonance component to it. And so I think he sees this as a platform to maybe potentially structure a book. So.
Well, it's pretty much how we believe anything. Like, we have this, our brain makes necessary shortcuts and based on intuitions, and intuitions are basically a whole set of neural cognates that contribute to, they sort of add up to which way you think something is. And then if you have something that if you've already got a target in mind and it's precious to you and it has a lot of emotion behind it, you will step over certain things that you think are going to threaten that. And we all find ourselves doing it. So it isn't just a creationist problem. It's a human brain problem.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, what's fascinating, and I think I've mentioned it here, is that this issue of creationism, what I'm talking about has connections to things like, I know you guys know this, it has connections to flat eartherism, it has connections to, like, refuting climate change, it has a connection to being an anti-vaxxer, like it has a connection to saying that the election was fake.
Exactly. It's all that just fascinates me that they're all in the same bag. Yeah. But and it's interesting, and there's if you do a lot of self-reflection on why you believe what you believe, you'll immediately run into little threads here and there. You'll be able to start to pull it out. But then there's also
where are you pulling this thread out of, buddy?
You're pulling the thread out of basically when you think of something, you'll think of 10 other things that are connected to it. Excuse me, hang on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand what he's saying. Essentially, that, like, maybe that, like, you can see the weaknesses in your argument. You can pull the thread of the weakness, but you're so overwhelmed with that dissonance that is in conflict with these other positions that you're just like, you're ignoring it. Your brain is like, it can't reconcile the fact that scientifically what you understand is this, but all your friends, your community, your church is all saying this.
Like for instance, if an anti-vaxxer were to get really honest with himself and sit down and meditate a little bit, he'd probably think, okay, anti-vax, and then the first thing he'd think of is Trump, and then he would think of some embarrassing thing that MSNBC said about Trump and the vaccine and COVID. And he may have a clue right there as to why he has this bias or this emotional feeling that he doesn't want to get a vaccine, right? And me, for evolution, when I start looking at why I believe in evolution, I find all sorts of little threads here and there, and little factoids, that lead me to believe it. And I'm always looking at those, and I'm always trying to shine a light on them, trying to shine a light on the dark spots and connect the dots together. Because I'm willing to abandon any belief I have. In fact, in the last 20 years, I have changed almost 180 degrees from what I was. Republican, conservative, fucking anti-immigrant nutcake. And so I'm always willing to change my mind or maybe fortify what I do believe. And for evolution, every time I've done it for evolution, it has fortified my belief. I haven't found anything other than some things in abio where I'll be like, God damn, that couldn't happen. That sort of thing. I get those moments, right? And then, but I keep looking. You got to keep looking for, you got to keep analyzing what you believe.
There's a guy that my wife connected me with. His name is, I think it's Paul Bloom. He's a psychologist at Yale, and he studies a lot of this cognitive dissonance, these issues. And I think he's interested in like why you believe what you believe, but he thinks about it from a kind of a neuroscience perspective.
Yeah,
I want to try to connect with this guy. So.
I've got a couple of books there on my shelf about neuroscience of belief.
Oh yeah.
And the shelf is too big for me to find them right now, but I've got a ton of books on neuroscience. And
anything that you think of, if you happen to run across a good citation or book, shoot me an email with it, because I'm really interested in this. I ran across an article about climate change on this too, and I talked to several folks about it, which was fascinating, like why people are so unwilling to acknowledge climate change.
I was one of those people. I was one of those people 20 years ago.
Yeah,
it scares them. I think that's the biggest reason. People don't want to admit that a problem that massive with that much capability to just completely annihilate our society is actually an imminent problem. Because then we have to work on solving it, and it's yeah.
I think part of it too is that humans don't want to think of themselves as being creatures that are
can change. Can change that much.
Yeah, I don't think people like viewing themselves like as being potentially like very like morally disgusting and immoral things.
If you're interested, Jason, my process, I was a climate change skeptic, right? I just didn't buy it, and there was a reason why I didn't buy it, and that reason was I like my steaks. I love my big honking Mercury with a 500 horsepower engine. And I liked the lifestyle. So there was that emotional element, but there was another element, and that was the people that were talking about climate change didn't do a very good job of giving me numbers. Okay. Yep. They didn't communicate it very well. So what I did one day is I added up, I figured out how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. And then I went out and I found out how much carbon dioxide we were dumping into the atmosphere. And I found out that every year we dump 1% of what was there in 1970 into the atmosphere. And I thought, holy fuck, that's a problem. Because if you were to change the amount of water in the ocean by 1% a year, you can imagine how quickly we would be fucked, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
very quickly. So I mean, we're changing, and as soon as I did those numbers, my belief started. I got over the emotional attachment to my steaks and my 500 horsepower engine. And all of a sudden I was saying, this is a real problem, and it hit me. So it's a combination of good science communication, and people that are open enough to honestly look. I mean, I did one of those self-reflective things where I dug out the reasons why I thought, why I didn't want climate change to be true. And there were a lot of reasons why I did, and I still don't, But,
I don't either. That's why I want to solve it. I acknowledge it's a problem, so we can make it not a problem.
But I mean, go ahead.
I think part of this too has to be something where like we can't just choose not to believe things on the basis that they're unsettling to us. Reality isn't going to change because of how we feel about climate change or things like that. I don't like going to work, but does that mean that change the fact that I have to go to work to make a living to pay for stuff?
Yeah.
Well, we can certainly change.
Yeah, but your mind is like a bowl of spaghetti, and you have to. Every now and then you got to sort it. So,
you have to do certain things in the world that are uncomfortable to live.
Well, in the last I don't know how long, maybe the last 30 years, there has been an increase of like this skepticism towards government, towards academia, towards all these areas.
More like anti-intellectualism.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even like this conspiracy theories of like the government is out to get you. The government is constructing this concept of climate change for these nefarious purposes. And
no. You got to remember, it's all the Chinese. It's a big hoax by the Chinese to get us all to pay more taxes to turn us into gay socialist lizard frogs.
All those things, yeah. And so that is the dissonant piece to this. So somebody's like, on one hand, I have these scientists telling me
research,
and then on the other hand, I have these other people that are saying, you know what, the scientists, they're just collecting a big, huge, fat grant paycheck, and the government is like, in cahoots with them, and there's a benefit, and so they start to think, you know what, that they, you know, that they have to weigh that in their mind. They have to like weigh that conflict. And like, Speed, you're an intelligent person. You're like, I want to do self-reflection, but a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to say, am I wrong? Could I be wrong?
A lot of people, unfortunately, I mean, it's kind of necessary in some sense. A lot of people are willing to believe what other people tell them as long as it agrees with pre-existing beliefs and biases.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As long as it feels good. I mean, it has to feel good. It has to feel what you're interested in.
Why do you think Fox News syndrome is so strong?
I used to be pissed off at whiny liberals, you know.
I mean, the thing is that there's
I'm a whiny liberal.
There's a subset of people that are like, we can tap into that. We can tap into the willingness of people to not want to agree with something because of their preconceived notions, and we can feed into that. We can feed into their those notions, and we can tell them, you know what? It's
judo. It's called judo, the easy way. You get the opponent to defeat himself.
Okay, good. Oh yeah.
The thing is too, you know, I think part of this stems like from a more deep issue, like in terms of like socioeconomics, because really, like, if you ever study the BITE model and like models like that explain like how cults manage to be effective, they work because people are tired. People are not having enough time to do, you know, like research into these things for themselves. And they're always being preoccupied with something else, right? So in a sense, some of these people kind of have to take what other people tell them as being factual.
I mean, honestly, like even amongst like the folks that we interface with online and then other academics, etc., most people aren't doing shit like that. They're not doing any research at all.
Well, no, because most people are working 80 hours a week, though, right?
That's right.
Like most people don't have
Well,
time.
I mean, sure, but doing research
Or they're
for a
on
lot of these
YouTube.
people is just regurgitating whatever the fuck Tucker Carlson said last night.
Correct.
But I do agree with Immutable, and I think that that's visible in what we're seeing now. After we're still kind of essentially in the pandemic, but now that people are like back at work and everything, nobody wants to go back because everybody realized just how much work fucking blows.
Work blows.
Yeah, I mean,
it just does. Let's be honest. Work fucking sucks.
Yeah, nobody.
Well,
likes
it's distracting. It distracts me from hanging out on YouTube 24/7.
Well, I think what it does is just most people can't engage in the activities they want to. The idea that if people didn't work in the context that we have today, that we would all just be a bunch of lazy fucking bums, I just reject that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look at the most of human history and know that's false. I don't get it.
So, Jason, have you been keeping up with Danny here? He says that neuroscience of belief seems like pseudoscience. And then he said,
remember, this ties into what we've been talking about. Danny has a belief, and that belief is that the mind is not a physical or a natural thing. So he's going to reject the notion that things like beliefs are going to be understood through natural mechanisms.
Yeah. Belief is a really, really interesting field of research in neuroscience.
So Danny's a dualist.
Yeah, he is.
Yes, but not. It's not a substance dualist.
He's a broken atheist. Is how I describe him. He's broken. His mind is broken.
I can't. Honestly, I'm not saying anything disparaging to that position. I just personally don't understand how people see the mind as separate from the brain. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
his is more like a categorical dualism.
Okay.
So he would agree, I think, with a lot of the correlates between the mind and the brain, but believes I'm probably glossing over God knows how many nuances here, because it is, and he said it himself, it is a rather difficult position to understand, but I think it's more of like a categorical dualism.
Yeah, it's kind of it's just amazing. You have to say, like, okay, when you start looking into the neuroscience of cognition, you start to, like, for everything that you think of as thinking or as your mind or your subjective experience, you will find correlates in neuroscience, right? And yet these guys, they have this little this want to have something else outside of that, and they keep sorting the piles, right? So you have correlates for this and correlates for that. And, oh, well, correlation is not causation, they will say.
I hate that.
Sometimes it fucking is.
So, well, the thing is that the phrase worded properly is correlation does not necessarily equal
right. That's the way
causation.
to. That's
However,
the proper way to
two
say it.
causally related things
Right.
will be correlated.
Right. If somebody throws a rock at your head, there's a correlation and causation
Yeah,
at
when
the
people
same
say, "Oh, well,
time.
there's just a correlation between the mind and the brain," I say, "Yeah, there's just a correlation between me smacking you in the face 1,000,000 times and you, feeling the pain every time I hit you." But that doesn't mean me smacking you is what's causing the pain. There's just a correlation.
Who has time to spend, 6 years reading neuroscience books and finding and basically nailing down that idea that your mind is your brain, looking, digging out all those little cognitive nuances in the brain and correlating them with what your subjective experience is. Until you've done that, you don't have a really solid belief. I mean, you know what I mean? You almost have to accept authority. Where's Dessel? You almost have to take somebody's word for it, basically. But anyway,
I don't even understand how. I mean, I guess I do. It goes back again to like these ideas that I was doing a review on Jeff Durbin and Cy Broodgate and these guys talking about this, and Jeff Durbin was saying things like, you're just brain fit. Like they think you're just brain fizz. You're just a meat bag. You're just molecules in motion. And he's saying it in a way that's like, can you believe that these guys think that you're just molecules in motion? And that's the attitude, which is humans are so unique that the mind can't possibly be something that evolves from the brain. It's just not possible given what we know about love and empathy, etc. And that's not really a reason to say that the mind is separate from the brain. It's just speculation.
What it's basically doing is like, oh, well, that position's really uncomfortable, so it must be false.
I just got a paper this week from academia.
So I'm going to reject it.
Yeah.
I got a paper this week from academia about I forget something about how we have to accept the soul, or the need to research the soul, because we've gone as far as we can with the neuroscience of consciousness. And this is a very recent article. Let me see if I can figure out where it is. But and he mentioned Roger Penrose and Stuart Hammeroff. What the hell was his name? I'm trying to find it. Previous 7 days. Yeah, I have so many fucking papers. Oh, let's see. Cybernetic pantheism. That's
by the way, Top Dog, I have seen that video. I've known about it for a long time. Me and my friend, when we found it, it was pretty funny. That's a good one.
The psychologist I was referencing, I'm going to put his thing in the chat. Paul Bloom. That's him, but he looks at moral psychology, morality of babies, moral responsibility, the role of anger, disgust, and empathy in our moral lives. But he studies all this stuff from a neuroscience perspective. The psychology of atheists, common sense dualism.
Cool.
I'm going to try to get a hold of this guy, because I'm sure folks like Danny, and I'm not saying anything disparaging about Danny's position whatsoever. I don't even know it, but I'm just intrigued to have folks that have these philosophical perspectives. It would be interesting to have somebody like Dr. Bloom talk about this from a neuroscience perspective, to see how those things come together, So
I found it. It's by Azevedo. I think it's, let's see, what is it? 2021, so it's a new paper. Should we reinstate soul at the center of the hard problem of consciousness? A non-materialistic approach. And you get a lot of these papers. But his case was quantum weirdness, therefore we don't know, and David Chalmers, and fuck David Chalmers with his hard problem of consciousness.
I still reject the notion that there's a hard problem of consciousness.
I know there is. I don't have a hard problem anymore. I'm old, but no.
Well, thank you for
No, I do not have.
Grateful that you had to.
I fully understand. I just had to throw that in. That's one of my little fucking, things. But I do not have a problem of understanding consciousness as physical anymore because I've looked into it pretty seriously. And I thought about it. I've done a lot of reflection. I mean, where do we get the idea of consciousness? How do you apprehend consciousness is the way to put it. Like, how do we apprehend our own consciousness and what's really going on? Well, then when you look at the neuroscience of what's going on while you're thinking about being conscious, that's where you start to unlock this whole thing. And you don't even, until you actually stop and think, oh, I'm conscious, you don't really have as much consciousness as we think we do. I mean, we get a lot of fucking visual input and a lot of stimulation from outside, but it really isn't that much to write home about when you start to unwind the whole thing.
Did you guys know that earliest humans, like 3,000-4,000 years ago, didn't even think that consciousness had really anything to do with the brain? I think they thought it was in like the chest or the gut or something like that.
Looks like it's time to boot Danny again. He just doesn't understand. You don't come on my channel and insult me, you little fuck.
He didn't insult you.
That's an insult.
That's not an insult.
Yeah, he's always picking on me.
Hey, guys,
Pick on him.
I got a kid thing I got to deal with. I got to deal with my daughter.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Jason, I sent you an email.
Oh yeah, I responded, Peter.
Peter, what the hell? Peter, are you okay? You have been so fucking quiet on the last two streams that it's like I don't even know you.
So here's the thing.
What's the thing?
I'm working.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it like daytime where you are right now?
No, I'm literally using your stream to make mine better. So, look. So
I know where you're going with this.
You're my guest now, and
yeah.
So Leo's my co-host, as you can see.
Oh, cool.
So I'm animating my studio so I can do shit like this.
Okay, that's you're distracted. I was worried about you, Peter. I was worried.
No, I'm still here. I did want to congratulate you because for the most time of this stream, and I think for the entire time, you have more viewers than a certain Christian channel that has almost 12,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and we don't have many viewers tonight compared to what we usually get. Usually get about 45 in the weather report.
The Christian channel literally has one person in the chat.
Oh no, is that Praise's channel or?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
And he does have Orgay, and he had Red Fang and Germania. I called him a traitor. He went over there too.
He went over there. What the hell? Yeah. Anyway,
we'll have to chastise them when they get back.
Yeah. Okay, kids, let's shoot it in the head. I have a steak that needs my attention. So
I need to eat some food too.
A hickory grilled porterhouse steak.
That sounds really fucking good.
Yes, marinated. Anyway,
marinated in what?
I marinated it, and I've got this really high, kind of classy mushroom. What the fuck is it? What do they call it? Bouillon. It's like bouillon, except it's real. It's real thick, and I just
like that.
Smear it on the steak and put on a little pepper.
Yeah, smear it all over that fucking.
Smear it all over that fucking steak, and then take your fingers and massage it. You know, just dig them in. Dig them in.
Yeah.
You know, like
Did you deglaze the pan when you were done? Did you deglaze
finger that steak for a little while, and then put it in a plastic bag and put it in the fridge, and then grill it. Yep. Anyway,
the South Park episode where Randy treats cooking like porn. Have you seen that one?
I can't remember. I'm sure I've seen them. I've seen them all.
School.
What the fuck is up with South Park this season? They've only had like two or three videos or shows. I mean,
I don't fucking know. Ask Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
I bought the fucking season. I think I don't know what the hell's up. Anyway, I mean, God, I live for that every year for the new South Park episode. Anyway. Okay, guys, we're going to shoot her in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I gotta have that. I gotta have that clip. I'm sorry. Okay, where the hell are we here? I'm trying to find. Here we go. See you guys. Bye. All.